again, everyone. Today I am here to share a recent collage that I completed. And because I do still intend to do the distressing of collage papers and kind of show you how that process is, I also wanted to show you something completed where I used that box of collage papers that I showed on this channel before. I'm going to put a link down below to the video where I go through my box of collage papers. But this is a finished collage using a lot of the collage papers that you actually will see in that box, and some acrylic paints, and just a variety of things. I'm going to try and go through here and kind of tell you the different things that I used, and then I'm also going to show you a couple of pages that I've started with just collage with nothing else on them, and at some point later I may come back to them on the channel and add to those. Part of the reason why it's kind of hard to do process videos for these particular types of pieces of art is that I end up creating these things over a long period of time. So basically I'll come and I'll do the first step, which I'll show you in the next couple of pages, and then I'll let all that dry, and then over the course of, it could be weeks, I'll come back and I'll add some different detail, let that dry, come back and add some different detail. I find that it's really useful to me to step back for a while after working on some things for a little while, because if I don't, I find that I have a tendency to kind of overwork things, or I have a tendency to say, oh, I just hate how this is going, and then I try to correct it, and then I just, I go down a hole. That is probably not the best. But if I do a little work, come back after leaving it for a while, and then do the same again and again, at some point I'll feel like something that I'm working on is complete. And this is one that I consider complete. That what is complete is really subjective. So this may look complete to me, but to you, you may think, oh, this needs something else, or whatever. But part of it is just sort of your gut feel as to whether you think something's done or not. So with this piece, what I did was I put down a bunch of collage papers, and again, I will show you that very first step in the next couple pages. And I think that this was actually a lemon from an old calendar that I had, and I kind of made that the focal point. And I actually kind of did what you're not supposed to do is on this particular page, I put this right in the middle. Although if you're viewing this as a 2-page spread, it's not exactly in the middle. But rules are meant to be broken, I think. But I kind of put these things, relatively in the middle on either page. But again, I do kind of plan to use this as one whole piece here over the 2 pages. And this paper, I can't remember what type of notebook this is, but I'll find it, and you'll be able to see more of the paper. There's some other things in here that I plan to share at later times, so I'm not going to share the rest of this book with you today. But you'll be able to see the actual color and texture of the paper as I go to the other pages. So what I started with was a base of collage. I basically just put things in sort of a random, intuitive way down on the paper, affixed them with matte gel medium, and then I did a little bit of blending of those things into the paper with some different colors of acrylic. And it really just depends, sometimes I'm taking a cue from the colors that are in the papers themselves and using those papers or those colors, or sometimes I'll just pick something contrasting. It really varies. And some of the things that I've also done after putting down the collage and the acrylic as I went through with stencils, I actually did a little bit of spray painting of acrylic paint on this through a stencil here. That was one of the first times I'd actually used spray paint, and I learned that I love it, so I'm probably going to incorporate that into a lot of future work. And this is kind of a large piece of tissue paper that I had made these little circles on, and I incorporated that, and then there were things underneath that you can see, and then I also put some things over. One of the textures that I like the most is bubble wrap, and putting color onto bubble wrap, and I'll probably do that with the papers I distress, so you'll be able to see it. And I'd say my two favorite ways of creating texture are through stencils and stamps. But mostly bubble wrap instead of stamps, just because stamps, I feel like they're kind of delicate, and using them that way, I kind of worry about damaging the stamps because I'm kind of rough with all of my stuff that I use. And then, so I did kind of create layer by layer those different things. I added some more collage, I added some more paints, different layers of different transparencies of materials. And as I got towards the end, I started adding more final elements of collage. Like I added these birds fairly late. And then I also added some little shadows to the birds to kind of integrate them into what I already have. And part of why I did that too is so that it would look like they were sort of sticking out from the page and a little bit of a 3D effect. And then I also, sort of one of the next to last steps is adding words. So here I put poetry at the top, and then these say, together the paths can be observed, but few people take note of them. And then down here, it says, a person with a keen ear for silence. And, and then this says, to go away without saying goodbye to anyone. So a lot of the words that I end up using in these are not necessarily, I mean, it's more like poetry, I guess I would say. It's kind of a label at the top of the page, right? I'm not necessarily trying to tell a story with the words. It kind of ends up being that way, and I kind of go by feel with a lot of that stuff. And I really, really love this kind of thing, working intuitively like this. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. This one is one that I particularly like. And if you look closely, you can probably see some of the book pages and different papers. One of the I think I'm trying to figure out what methods to show you for distressing papers, and one of the methods I really like is doing sort of abstract writing on the page and either layering that over or below fields of color. Because when you tear it up, it looks a little bit more abstracted. Sometimes I'll actually write real words. Sometimes I'll just scribble. Real words tend to come off a little better, though, because they have more intention to them, I think. And what I write just depends on the day. But that's what this is here. And then there's sort of like fields of color of collage back here. And it's really just a process of integrating things. So like I said, I doubt I will show you a complete process from beginning to end, just because it would be very labor intensive to do so, because things like this I create over, I think this was probably created over 2 or 3 weeks time, where I would leave it and come back to it. And I have some little wood grain stamps, so I did actually use some stamps up here to sort of reflect this collage paper here. All right. So that's a completed one. And then in these next 2 pages, so this is essentially how I generally start these. Sometimes I kind of have a composition in mind. Sometimes I just kind of put things down. And you can kind of see these papers in their raw form all kind of layered together. So this would definitely be first step. And this is there's probably 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 steps ultimately in this, because I did various things at various points. And then this page, I had a little bit more of a specific composition in mind. This one, I've been kind of hesitant to go back and do more layers on, just because I love this particular circle print in the middle. This is actually a jelly print with this is a feather that I printed over. And then this, I think, is somewhat coppery in tone. I really love that color. And some of the bleed that you're seeing is from this ink, but it's also from some of the water-soluble media that I did, that I use when writing these papers. And this should look familiar from that other video. This is essentially just some ink and some stenciling through a stencil with some white acrylic paint. And this one is probably a little bit more layered than the others. But this is the starting point, and then and then we get to here. I mean, if you're interested, I could show sort of the next stage and maybe do this in a series of videos. But I also I kind of like to work intuitively too, and kind of gauge when I am interested in doing things. And whenever I'm interested and want to just work on things like this, I'm not necessarily in a place where I can use the camera and film. So because I've gotten some questions about, you know, showing more work on the channel, and I have a variety of reasons for not showing a ton of work on the channel. But generally, you know, for this kind of thing, I find it logistically a little bit difficult to show you the whole process. But like I said, I'm definitely going to be doing the distressing of papers, and you can see sort of the first step here, and then I've described a little bit the process of going through this. But that's all I wanted to show you today, so feel free to subscribe so you can keep track of future videos. And if you have any particular methods or things that you would like to see on the channel, please mention them in the comments below, and I'll see if I can make that happen. Because I really want to cater to not only my interests, but the interests of people that are watching. Well, at least to the extent that those two things align. I'm probably not going to do anything that I'm really not that interested in. But anything that I've shown on the channel that you'd like to see more of, or something like that, because I'm trying to decide how much of each particular type of media and type of video to show you. So I'd love your input. All right, just let me know. Anyway, I hope to see you next time, and have a great day. All right, thanks so much. Bye.